There it is. Yeah. What is up, ladies and gents? It's Greg here from Team Hybrid BMX. So, I was called Team Hybrid BMX. That's gonna take a while, guys. Sorry. I need to get that out of my system. Hybrid BMX. I know it still says Team Hybrid BMX. I tried to change the name. It didn't work. So, whatever. Either way, welcome to Hybrid BMX. Today, what we are doing is, obviously, if you guys didn't just see the live stream, go back and watch it. I just got 2 bikes from Josh down in Farrell, PA. He brought them up for me, which was really awesome of him, because that would be something I'd have to estimate toward cost if I would have had driven all the way down there. So it was really nice of him to come up here. So thank you for that, Josh. I appreciate it. Sorry I wasn't able to interview you. But he brought me 2 bikes, which I paid him $100 for. So the next goal here is to pretty much make a list of what needs to be done to the bikes, what they need to be fixed in order to make them decently rideable. It doesn't have to be crazy, but it does have to be reasonable. Right now, the shape they're in, let's put it this way. I paid $100 for them. They need roughly about $50 to $70 worth of work between the 2 bikes. That's tires. Well, we'll show it. We'll show it to you. That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to review what you guys can do when you buy a used BMX bike. Give yourself a checklist of parts you're going to need to buy in order to make your bike either A, rideable, if it's not rideable, like these 2 bikes are, or if it's rideable, what do you want to upgrade in the near future because you know that part's either going or whatnot. But don't just buy a used BMX bike and expect it to be, unless you're paying $300, $400, $500 off rip, don't expect that bike to be in the best shape ever. If you're paying $100 or less for a bicycle, chances are you're going to get Walmart quality. You're going to get really crappy quality bikes. That's just the way it works. That's why I don't want to steer you guys wrong. I don't want you to think that used BMX bikes are junk. That's the main reason behind this channel, is to take used BMX bikes and restore them into bikes that are affordable and are good starter bikes. Instead of spending the $350 that you should be spending to get a decent BMX bike, you're only spending like $150 to $175 to get yourself into a decent used BMX bike. And I'm going to show you pretty much the level of the cost and how much money I really won't be making off of these bikes. I'm not going to be making, my profit margins are not going to be huge. Pretty much I'm doing this as a hobby and a side passive income. At this point in time, it's all, I already told my wife this, the investment I just made and any investments I make toward this right now are literally going right back into the business. That's what you do when you start a business, guys. You don't spend a whole bunch of money expecting to make a whole ton of money. That's not how business works. Business is, you spend a little bit of time on it and you work your way up the ladder with it. You don't just expect to make millions of dollars or thousands of dollars or even $100. You expect to make a little bit of your profit back, but you have to take that money immediately and drop it back into your business if you want it to be successful. And that's what I'm trying to do. And really, I think it's because the goal of this business is not to make myself filthy rich. The idea behind this business that I'm creating with Hybrid BMX recycled bikes is to make bikes more accessible for people who really enjoy bicycling, whether that's BMX or eventually I'm going to get into selling mountain bikes and road bikes as well. But selling them at a decent price point where people can actually afford to enjoy the sport rather than feeling like they're getting ripped off every time they go to a bike shop. And that's not to say that these bike shops, these new bikes are you're getting ripped off, because you're not. The cost makes sense. for a brand new bike, and I totally agree with it. I'm just making it an accessibility for people who want to get involved but can't afford to get involved and instead keep going to Walmart and buying the crappy bike that doesn't last them very long, and they don't really get to enjoy the sport enough to go and want to purchase a brand new bike, or have the time to, they still get to enjoy the sport while they're saving for that new bike. That's more the plan. So that's a layout of what the business looks like. Let's get into the other part of this video, which is reviewing the bikes that I just bought. I'm gonna do them one at a time. I'll probably do one this video, and then I'll do another video of the next one, and lay out the cost and what parts are broken. And I'm not taking the bikes apart yet. This is just a assessment without taking the bikes apart. So the first assessment should be, and should be the assessment that you make when you first purchase the bikes. The reason I rushed through this is because it was such a good deal. It didn't really matter if, as long as I did a quick view when I bought the bikes, which was, okay, do they have three-piece cranks? Do they have three-quarter or 19 mil axles, or I'm sorry, 14 mil axles? Do they have um, decent bars? Do they have pedals? Do they have, is the bike pretty complete, or is it a complete piece of junk? And I can also say they're not. They definitely need work. There's no doubt about that. They definitely need work, and I'm the perfect candidate for these bikes, to fix them up and make them look nicer and hopefully get them running a hell of a lot better than they ever did. And then sell them to you guys on this channel, or whoever may come along that could buy them online. Hoping to get some younger riders into the sport, so we'll hope. But anyways, guys, without further ado, let's jump into this review of a used BMX bike to get your guys used to what you're going to be looking for when you buy a used BMX. So this part you're going to need to do when you get back. So we're just going to title this page. We're just going to title this page Used BMX Parts Review. Okay. And you want to make this one the original copy. Okay. This is going to be your original draft. Okay. So what we're doing here is we're going to be making a list of all the parts and components that you do have, and the condition of those parts. If there's anything that needs to be done to those parts, you need to list that here in detail, as what do you plan to do with them. So let's get over to the bike and take a look at what we need to address. Okay, so the first bike we have here, I actually had these backwards. I had them all wrong. I thought that I knew what bikes I was talking about in the live video, so I apologize for that. With a little bit more detail and looking through the bikes, I know what I have now. I'm pretty sure I know what I have now. Okay, so I also did some stuff for comparison so that I can have an idea of what that bike is, but we'll get into that bike after we're done with this one. Okay, so this one is a stolen. I don't know what kind of stolen brand bike it is, but the way I was able to tell that it was a stolen is this logo right here. That is the Stolen S. I've seen it a bunch of times. I know that logo very well. The other dead giveaway with Stolens is mid. It's a mid-bottom bracket. I don't know about this though. I know this isn't a dent. This is just the way they formed, because it's such a heavy framed bike. That's the other thing. Whoever buys this bike is gonna, I mean, they're never gonna have to get another frame because it's such a heavy duty frame. I mean, you would literally have to, like, I don't know, with this bike. I'm gonna look up the serial numbers and see exactly what bike it is. But The first thing you want to check when you're looking at a used BMX bike, and I should have done this before I bought the bike, and I didn't, but you want to check all, and it's going to be hard because this is spray painted, but you want to check all the welds around the seat stays and chain stays and make sure that there's no holes or cracks in the welds. This one is very solid. I wasn't really worried about it when I first saw it. It's a little bit old school because we have a regular headset. That's not a bad thing though, guys. A lot of people think, oh, you have to have integrated. That's totally a farce. So you do not have to have an integrated headset. It's going to be a challenge to find decent regular headsets anymore because they really just phased them out. A lot of companies don't even make them anymore, so I'm probably gonna have to find them used, which is fine, either used or vintage bike store or whatever. I don't know, online. That all depends on what condition these bearings are in, but if I'm looking at the condition of the bike, I don't think the bearings are probably going to be very good. That's just from, I could be lucky and the bearings could be fine. Okay. Now moving on to the stem. The stem looks good. One of the things you want to check for on a stem, number one, that looks really bad. I don't know if that's going to come off very easily. Probably not. It looks like they stripped that out pretty good, but it looks like if you go far enough down, you should be able to get that Allen key to work pretty good. I have to flip it the right way too because it's not right. I don't know if this is a Salt headset or what company this is because I've never seen this company a day in my life. But the headset, I keep calling it a headset. The stem looks decent. The bolts aren't stripped, which is nice. They're a little bit, this one's a little bit stripped, but it's not a big deal. They're not rounded off. These bars are really nice. They don't look bent at all, which is awesome. That's another thing you want to look for, guys, is make sure, you can usually tell if you lay it on the ground, you should be able to see that the bars just kind of touch at the exact same spot, and you'll know whether or not your bars are bent or not. The forks look pretty straight. I don't see any really bad angles or anything that looks sketchy, and I like the cutouts for the pegs. I think that's a really cool feature. So that's decent. The grips, obviously, they're kind of just ghetto, basic grips, but they work. I mean, and they're not in bad shape. They don't look all gunked up and messed with. So they might even just stay on the bike because it's just not that important of a part. And at $10 a pop, they're really not necessary to be replaced. But it might depend on the theme of the bike or what direction I decide to go with it. I might change the grips. Tires. This Maxxis in the front is about a $13 tire. It doesn't have a whole ton of life left in the middle of the tread. So that's kind of an issue, but on a used bike it's not crazy big deal. But I plan on buying some decently cheap tires and throwing them on here just because they're a better look than these old dingy tires. The wheels are in really good shape, especially on this bike. The front wheel is in really good shape. What you want to do with the wheel always, here, I'll pull the bike out. We'll flip it over for now. Okay, there we go. And this is where you check your bars. See, they're pretty level. The ground, there's not a whole lot of, there's no discrepancies, which means they're not bent, which is good. Okay, we'll give it a good spin. Now, be careful with looking at this tire, because see, now I see there's a problem with the tire. The tire is what is looking wonky. It's not the wheel. Now, a lot of people that mistake that for the wheel. But the best way to tell if your wheel is whack or if it's your tire is to look at the wheel itself. Watch the wheel. You can even put your finger on it and feel if there's any kind of wobble or discrepancy, and there's none. And the bearings run really well. They could use some more oil, but it runs pretty well. The other thing you want to check while you're here is try to move it side to side, and there is no play side to side either. and they're sealed bearings, which is really nice. So that's a nice front wheel, very nice front wheel. Okay, the pedals are not bad, but they're not good. You could get away with respraying these and probably keeping them on the bike. They're not a huge big deal, but I mean, you can buy plastic pedals for about 10 bucks a pop nowadays. So I might just do that. Buy some decent plastics and throw them on here, because these are a little bit whacked. The cranks are good. They don't seem bent, which is good, and it's a 3-piece, which is also good. The pinch bolts look good. Internally, I'm going to have to check the bearings, and I don't know how those look right now, obviously. Definitely give it a spin and see if the sprocket looks bent. This one does not, which is a good sign. It might need a new spray because it's a little bit rusty. That's something I'll definitely write in the notes. Okay, this back rim is an issue. Number one, it is not a 14 mil axle, and I don't like that. That's gonna have to change. It's just not gonna work. It's just not a very good situation here. That, and if you look at the hub, it's completely loose. It's so wonky, it's not even funny. So I'm not even gonna pick it up and spin it because it's not even worth it. I mean, it's so loose, I can just shake it side to side. This is something that Josh had mentioned to me, that the back rim on this one was totally whacked and just junk, which, so be it, not a big deal. Okay, so something else that's not incredibly important, but it is something that you want to review as well. Obviously, this bike does not have brakes. I will offer brakes for a cost. I'll definitely keep a set laying around. If somebody wants brakes on their bike, I will lace up a straight cable anytime. That is not a big deal. The other thing you want to check is the seat, which this one isn't even in here completely, but it's good. It's just not tightened down correctly. And it looks like, okay, the threads aren't stripped. It's just not held down very well, which is okay. It's not a very long seat, which is also okay. It's not a big deal. It's a Snafu, which is a good brand. It's a plastic seat. Some people are against plastic seats. Some people like plastic seats. I'm not a big fan of the blue. I think it's kind of ugly, especially with the red sprocket. So I might buy some plastic paint and repaint the seat because it's ugly. I might paint it black, honestly. So yeah, so far, really the only thing this bike needs to be operational is a back rim, which I have, and a chain, and you could ride it. But aesthetically, it is very ugly. This whole silver splatter paint job with rust from the brake cables rubbing and stuff is just ugly. So it's going to need to be sanded and repainted a different color. So, and I looked up model colors for this year. If you guys want, you can put it in your favorite colors as to what you think the bike should be colored. But I was thinking somewhere along the lines of what I already have in my repertoire, which is the whole, it's either going to be white, the teal blue's real big this year, and purple's huge. The very pastel-y colors are big this year, so far from what I could see. So here, let me get this bike to stand up on its own. Okay, so that's the review of the Stollen from what I have so far. Now, these bars probably will not stay on this bike. I will probably use these because these are the original Stollen bars that were on this bike to begin with. And I might use the back rim from this bike. But we'll talk about this bike in a different video. This is the only bike we're going to talk about in this video. So, from what I know about the bike, it's time for me to write a list, which I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then I'll film the list for you guys and give you an idea of cost and how I work cost. So, alright guys, Get to you in a second. Hey, what is up, guys? It is Greg again here, Hybrid BMX. Sorry this video is kind of choppy. Some of it was filmed last night. This is the next day. This is Monday. Day I'm going to actually post this video as well after I edit it. So we were going over the used BMX, the first one, the Sunday, I'm sorry, stolen, and how we would have to fix it and what would need done, and the cost of said bike. So this is without a breakdown. This is what I have to, some of the stuff I still have to look at cost wise and whatnot by actually breaking the bike down and seeing what really needs done. I'm gonna have to break the bike down anyways to do the repaint, but let's go over this so that you guys can get an idea of how much it would really cost you to get a bike up and running. I did it without profit and then with a profit as well, if you were to turn around and flip a bike like I'm planning on doing. So initial cost of the bike was $50 because I bought both the bikes for $100, so they're $50 a piece. Grips, they're good but could be replaced for cooler ones, so $10 is what I put. They don't need to be replaced, but they could be replaced, and more than likely I will, just because grips are important for sure. Bars, they're good. They're the stolen heat treated bars. Usually they'd be about $90 brand new. So, well, 70, somewhere between 70 and 90 brand new. Stem is good. I don't know what brand it is, so I'm gonna have to look that up. It's gonna need to be sanded down and stuff like that. Headset may need replaced or just re-greased. I'm hoping for just a re-grease because that's an expensive cost, coming in at $20 if I have to replace it. And that's just for that would be for a nicer headset. I probably could go cheaper and find a BMX bike headset for a lot cheaper, but I don't want to put cheap parts on a bike. The whole idea is to upgrade, not downgrade. Forks, cool peg cutout forks, and they're straight as an arrow, so they don't need to be replaced. The frame is stolen brand. The welds are good and it looks straight. This is just for my initial review. So once I take it apart, I'll have to take a better look at it and see what we actually have going on. The three-piece cranks are in good shape. I have to check the bearings though and make sure that the bearings themselves aren't completely turned to dust, because typically with I'm sorry, the bearings on this are the mids, which are sealed, so they should be okay, but I'm still gonna pop the casings and I'll show you guys how to pack them full of grease and redo them, make sure that the balls aren't completely destroyed. If they are destroyed, it's going to be a $15 cost to get a new bearing kit. Let's see, pedals are good, but they should probably be replaced. Typical plastic pedal prices right now are running around $20. So either that or I'll put the Odyssey plastic PC pedals from the other bike on this one, which is probably going to be, that's going to cut that cost right out of there. So really, I mean, it's optional cost, so I'll show you guys that here in a minute and how that works. Okay, the seat is good quality. It's a Snafu plastic one piece. I'm gonna probably repaint it to black, just because the blue is really just not what I want at all. Seat clamp is good. Don't really need to worry about seat clamps. They're cheap anyway. I wouldn't even count it as a cost. Back rim replaced with my used PBR that I have out in the garage. It is a little bit wonky, but it still works pretty good, and the driver on it is still pretty solid as far as the hub's concerned. I may relace the back wheel, take the other PBR off and relace it. I don't know. We'll see. Or I might just use my I might just tune the wheel out and tighten up the nipples a little bit on the back wheel and true it out. Brakes are optional. That's going to be with every bike that I sell. If they don't have brakes, I'm going to buy a brake kit like I put on my bike, and can include with the bike for $30, or that cost can be taken into account. So repaint, frame, seat, and sprocket. Roughly about $20 is what's going to cost me to repaint this bike, and that's, a lot of people would say that's steep. You're probably right, but I always account for the fact that I'm going to need supplies like masking tape. Also going to need clear coat, because I'm not going to just spray it with spray paint and leave it be. I'm going to try to clear coat the bikes as well. And it's being generous. Like I said, it's being generous with the paint job. The paint job has to happen though. Let's see. The headset may need to happen. The grips don't need to happen, but will probably happen. So right there alone, I'm looking at 20, 30, 40, and then maybe 50, 60, 70. So this cost could be a lot different. Right now I'm at $115 for everything included. Plus the initial cost of $50. That brings my total of cost to $165. So if I were to sell this bike at cost and not try to make a profit, it would be only 165 bucks, which means I'd just get my money back. I don't want to get my money back because I'm putting work into this, and my labor is worth more to me than $165, even if it's just a hobby. Time is money, folks. So that being the case, I would put the bike price at $200. That's everything fixed plus brakes, minus 165, gives you a $35 profit, which isn't anything. I mean, if you really consider how many hours this is going to take me to get this one bike up and going, the profit margin is just that's not a great profit margin at all. However, I also understand the value of starting a business. You're going to flip your first couple of bikes before you make a profit. And that's what I'm going to do this time. As long as I'm not losing it, as long as I'm not losing myself on my bikes, I'm happy. I'm still going to mark, if I put everything on here, I'm still going to mark the price at $200. Not because of the profit, just because of initial costs and everything else, plus my labor. So $200 is a lot better than $350 though, and that's what you would get out of this bike, is about the quality of a $350 bike. I didn't include the sprocket either, but the sprocket's good on this bike. At least I don't think I did. No, I didn't include the sprocket, but the sprocket's good on this bike, so I don't need to replace it. Oh, and I forgot to add the chain as well. Whoops. This was kind of a quick deal. The chain's only $5, so I'll go ahead and just, with the 200, that takes it down to $30 profit. Like I said, it's not a huge, great investment. It's not going to make me a ton of money. That's the start of a business though. You gotta flip your first couple in order to make the money to get the big bike. That's what I'm trying to do. The one that's gonna hopefully make me, and I'm looking for that bike already. But anyways, guys, that's your basic breakdown of how you're gonna look at a used BMX. If you're gonna look at this for yourself, you could say, okay, well, I bought this bike for me personally to ride. The grips, that's a cheap investment. You can make that very easily. Any of these are very cheap investments that you could do just by doing some basic jobs around the house for your folks, or going and shoveling some snow, or if you live in a place that's warm and sunny, I'm sure there's lawns to be mowed and stuff. So there's definitely ways to make this money if you're a young guy and you don't have a job or whatever. There's ways to make this happen for a pretty affordable cost, and you have a nice bike by the time you're done. So that just gives you an idea of a rundown, a basic rundown. Obviously I'm gonna have to go in more depth and make some decisions on what's gonna happen and what's not gonna happen, because we wanna try to stay away from this $200 mark, because what I'd have to do is on Facebook and Craigslist and all these, I would actually probably put it at $250, let people talk me down to $200, but no lower than that. That's the other thing, guys. You're gonna end up sitting on bikes too. That's gonna happen a little bit. Most bike shops do. You're gonna sit on a bike for a while before it makes you some profit. So be prepared for that if you're gonna do exactly what I'm doing. So yeah, but anyways, guys, I hope you're having a great day, and we'll definitely catch you next time on Hybrid BMX. Be expecting a video on the other bike here within the next day or two. So like I said, have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Later.